All right, everybody. We are live right now here on YouTube and on X. There's still about 3 minutes left in this game, but the Boston Celtics have officially put the nail in the coffin of the Orlando Magic, who, through 5 games, valiant effort, played as much football as they could on a basketball court. But at the end of the day, when you can't shoot, when you're basically throwing a football at a basketball rim for 5 straight games, at the end of the day, the best team in the league, the defending champs, are going to finish you. And in that third quarter, when Paolo Banchero went down with his fifth foul, the Boston Celtics went on a run of epic proportions. I've got my guy Alex Gonzalez here today. Will is out on a family emergency. So we're going to get this thing going here. And when we come back from our intro, we'll be talking about the Boston Celtics finishing the Orlando in 5 games, moving on to the Eastern Conference Semifinals. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Greg Manakis checking in. I got Alex Gonzalez here with me. Will is out on a family emergency, and the Orlando Magic had a little bit of a family emergency tonight when they all realized collectively at the same time that none of them were able to shoot a basketball. Alex, what were your thoughts coming into this game? Were you worried at all? Celtics Game 5 against Orlando at home at TD Garden.
No, I wasn't worried. Really, the only time I was a little bit worried was the tail end of game 4. It was close, kept going back and forth. Could only get the lead to about 5. Magic would bring it back. But other than that, no, wasn't really worried. And even when we were losing at halftime in this game, I wasn't worried about that either. 9 turnovers, no 3-pointers, and you saw what happened in the second half. So,
yeah, what do you attribute the kind of the malaise that we saw in the first half too? Because when the Celtics, we'll go through this game kind of chronologically here, just for everybody, so that we can relive the Boston Celtics' glorious victory in Game 5 over the Orlando Magic. Coming into this game, no Drew Holiday for the third straight game. Hopefully, that hamstring is not a huge issue. I would imagine if this were a do or die situation, Drew would have been out there. But third straight game, Drew Holiday doesn't play. Early on in this one, we come out, it seems like the Celtics, they had a couple early shots. JB had an early bucket, but he also had 2 early turnovers going up against KCP in the post. KCP had 8 points in that first stretch there. But why do you think the Celtics came out so lackadaisical, Alex?
I don't know. I think maybe they thought they're at home, they're up 3-1. Magic would just lay down and give up. I feel like that's something we've seen with this Celtics team throughout the years. They kind of, when they feel a little bit comfortable, they don't really play up to their skill level. So maybe that's what it was. Also, I don't know. I feel like their offensive mindset in that first half was just completely different than it was last game. Like they attacked the basket a lot more. Saw JT get downhill, and they only took 6 3-pointers. I can't remember the last time the Celtics only took 6 3-pointers in one half.
Right. Yeah, that was probably the biggest storyline coming out of the first half. Is this was the first game all year the Boston Celtics did not hit a 3-pointer, though Al Horford had 2 corner threes where his foot was on the line,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that one was early in the game and one late in the second quarter there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, Tatum especially came out with a different mindset in this one, where it seemed like he just wanted to attack relentlessly. He was facilitating, he was rebounding. One thing I did write down early in this one, as I'm kind of thinking through what could go wrong. I'm always thinking worst case scenario, even with this team as great as they are. And one thing I was wondering was Tatum's wrist, whether or not it was affecting him a little bit more on defense than on offense. Because early in the game, he had Paolo at the nail, right? JT's on defense, and he didn't really want to bang bodies with Paolo. Paulo just jab steps hard to his right, goes right by him, finishes left. And then typically you see when somebody goes at Tatum, he'll put kind of both of those hands
Yeah.
out there to kind of absorb the blow, but it seemed like he didn't really want to get physical with his hands there. And then the same thing happened with Franz, who kind of had him in transition, and Tatum kind of olayed him and let him get the early bucket there. So that was kind of the first thing that I was watching for, was Jason Tatum's wrist actually going to be a problem moving forward? And it the stat line at the end of these games, the 36 for 36 free throws since he
Yeah.
missed the first 4. It's telling me that, yeah, it might be painful, but I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, his wrist problem seems to have fixed his free throw problem. He hasn't missed from the line, so I'm not really sure. I think it probably is bothering him a little bit, but at the same time, he seems to have added a new celebration to his arsenal, a little grab the wrist 3-pointer. So, I mean, yeah, we got something out of it. Final score: Celtics 120, Magic 89. I think just a flawless second half from the Celtics offensively.
Absolutely. Yeah. I can't wait to get into that third quarter where the Celtics just took over in that game. And you could just see the magic just start to wilt. Jamal Mosley forgot that he was the coach on the sideline. Everybody in that organization just shit the bed there. Even when they cut to Mo Wagner on the bench, he even looked like, that those beautiful German locks on his head didn't have quite the bounce that they had earlier in the game. But a couple other things from this first quarter. KCP, as I mentioned earlier, had 8 early points, 2 threes in that first quarter, hit a little midi as well. His much maligned offense seemed to kind of come alive there in the first quarter. And I'm just wondering, like, are the Celtics going to realize that they're in the game against a team fighting for their playoffs lives? And Joe makes an earlier sub than normal, right? It seemed like he kind of sensed that the energy was off. So he goes bench mob the 6-minute mark with the Celtics down 11-8. So Derek White, JB, and KP come out for Pritchard, Hauser, and Cornette, and then immediately the Magic go up 19-12. So that that didn't really work. But you mentioned the 9. I think you mentioned maybe I'm just thinking about the broadcast, but 9 turnovers in that first half. 5 in the first quarter for the Celtics. The Magic were out and running, getting out in transition, which is basically all they can do because, as we saw throughout the series, they can't shoot. But Jason Tatum, dominant first quarter, he ends up with 10 points. Was it 5 assists, 3 rebounds, Alex?
Yep, that's what it was.
And Orlando hits 4 3-pointers. Celtics have 0 3-pointers in that first quarter. Any other takeaways or any other notes you wrote down from that first quarter?
I mean, the Magic were just attacking the glass offensively. I mean, they only got 3 in that first quarter. You really saw it in that second quarter. They had 7 offensive rebounds. I mean, I feel like they came out with the right energy, even though they can't really shoot the ball efficiently. They were still getting good looks, and a couple of them did go down. But at the same time, even though the Celtics were down, weren't playing the best in the first quarter, I still had faith. I mean, obviously they had made a 3-pointer, so I mean, I had faith that they were going to bounce back, and in that second half, they really did.
Absolutely. And so let's move on to the second quarter here. So JT comes out as normal. He plays the whole first quarter. Franz, who was amazing, aside from not being able to shoot a 3-pointer, he was so good driving to the basket. Like Scal and Drew, by the end of this, were just like salivating over any Franz Wagner foray into the paint. So 5-0 run to start that quarter, but Franz is dominating JB on both ends, right? He's locking him up on one end. He's driving right by him. I got a note here, like, can Sam Hauser even play in this game? Because he seemed like he just couldn't hang with, whatever was going on out there with that Orlando Magic defense. Another note I have here, Scal said at one point, we have to keep Derek White away from Franz Wagner. And hey, Drew, we're down by 6 and we've played terrible. And that was like one of those things with the Orlando Magic. The fact that they can't hit 3-pointers means that they can't pull away from anybody, right? As great as their defense is, at the end of the day, their Achilles heel is the fact that they can't shoot threes.
Yeah, I mean, it really felt like they should have been up by more points than they were in that first half. They played better. They played harder. They just played with more energy. And the Celtics were somehow able to hang in it. And, again, we saw what happened in the second half. So.
Right. So another note I have here, I thought Derek White and Jalen weren't playing all that well in the first half. I have a note here about 6 minutes left in the first half. Can the Celtics even survive without Jason Tatum? But the Celtics start to go on a run. It's 38-30. Jason Tatum subs back into the game. And from there to KCP bricked 2. Jalen had that fast break layup. And that was one of those like first momentum plays in this game where it seemed like Jalen went to that little Pinoy step, but he probably traveled when he went there, but there are no travels in the NBA anymore.
Yeah.
He gets that. Cole Anthony misses a 30-foot dare three-pointer. KCP then bricks a follow-up three. Then we get that Derek White and one off of the nice shot fake from the slot. And then Paolo misses 1 out of 2 from the line. And it seemed like at this point, the momentum starting to swing back in the Celtics' favor. The Magic actually ended up going on a nice little run at the end of the second quarter
Yeah,
there.
they did.
But JB also, you know, as bad as he was for stretches in this game, he still, when it comes to the playoffs, man, like as much as sometimes I think there are other guys in the league that might just be better than Jalen over an 82 game stretch, when you get into the playoffs, I feel like Jalen, he can turn it up and his physicality can just overwhelm teams.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's obviously a force. You just look at him and he just looks like he's all muscle. So when he really puts that to use, when he goes downhill, he's really hard to stop. And you saw that really at the start of the third quarter, which we haven't really got to yet. But
yeah, let's get
he,
into it.
yeah, he really, like, after a slow first half, he really put it pedal to the metal in that third quarter. He opened it up strong, and really Tatum closed that quarter. And I saw from the end of the second quarter to the end of the third quarter, the Celtics were on a 40-13 run. Like, absolutely insane. And during the broadcast, they said the Celtics have 13 less shots than the Magic, and they were still up 25. It was just incredible.
Yeah, in that third quarter, there was a interesting like kind of play-by-play. So after Paulo's, he subs out with the game tied with 9:46. He gets his 5th foul. And this is to your point about JB's physicality. And I thought the broadcast did a really good job calling this out because the Celtics were frustrated in the first half with some of the calls that the Magic were getting. And Scal pointed out, he said, listen, in the NBA, if you're not going up through contact on that little drive off the slot, and if you're not holding your line and going up strong, you're not going to get the call. And JB adjusted right from the second half. He draws 2 fouls on Paolo, exactly what Scal had called out. And the Magic even kind of desperation challenged the last one because they knew like, hey, we probably have to sub Paolo out, even they probably shouldn't, because the Celtics just go on a crazy run from there. Because it was tied at 53 when Paolo subbed out. And then by the time he subbed back in, the game was over.
Yeah, I thought that Jamal Mosley did make a little mistake keeping Paolo in with those 4 fouls. He just got the charge and another foul, like back-to-back, that was in within a minute. And he kept him in the game. There was still well over 10 minutes to go in the third quarter. Then another minute later, he gets that 5th foul. He has to sit for the entire third quarter. I feel like if Mosley had taken him out, although the Magic aren't as strong with him off the court, it would have been better in the long run of this game. Because now he's got 5 fouls. There, he's not playing the rest of the third quarter. And I feel like the Magic realized then they had no hope. And I mean, the Celtics were due for a 3-pointer, and then they shot I think 70% from 3 in that third quarter, and up putting 36 points. So,
yeah, what's crazy is in that third, they didn't really get cooking shooting the 3 until like the last 4 minutes with that Jason Tatum 27-foot 3-pointer that he had for his 24th point of the game. But even with, when you're thinking about Mosley trying to find a moment to get Paolo back in the game, with 3 minutes left, so he's already been out 7 minutes at this time. It's still a 10-point game. It's 70-60 with 3 minutes left in that third quarter. And then Hauser hits that 3-pointer off that nice little action that they ran. Horford hits a corner 3, and then Tatum hits another 3. And all of a sudden you're down 17. And before you know it, it's a 21-point game going into the fourth quarter, and Paolo Banchero is just wasting away. And if I'm an Orlando Magic fan, I'm just like, man, this is a closeout game. At some point, you just gotta like hope that he can stay on the court.
Yeah, I mean, and he didn't commit another foul the rest of the game. So,
yeah. And then the fourth quarter, this is Celtics just completely took over the game from here. What was the final score in this one? You called it out.
Yeah, it was 120-89 Celtics.
120-89. So
Celtics had 47 points at halftime. So they scored 73
Can you do that math for us?
In that second half. 73
points in the second half. Yeah, the floodgates just completely opened. You and I have been going back and forth on Jason Tatum in our little text thread throughout this series. While I'm talking here, Alex, can you do me a favor? Can you actually pull up Jason Tatum's final stat line for the series, his per game stat line for the series,
Per
if you
game
got it?
stat line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can look at it on my phone.
Okay.
I knew he was averaging 30 per game before this game. It's now definitely gone up a little bit. Let me see.
So Tatum ends up tonight a plus 34 on the night, 35 points, an efficient 10 for 16 from the field, 4 for 5 from 3, 11 for 11 from the line, 10 assists, 8 rebounds, a steal, and only 2 turnovers in this one. And you texted me and Will at one point. Shout out to Will if you're listening, my man. Alex texts and he just says, "Man, Jason Tatum is playing a flawless game of basketball." And to see him even make adjustments from game to game in this series has been really awesome to watch as he's dealt with the wrist, he's dealt with the physicality of the Magic, and he has just shown time and time again that he's a top 3-4 guy in this league.
Yeah, Jason Tatum, this playoffs, 31.3 points per game, 11.3 rebounds per game, 5.3%, 5.3 assists per game on 44% shooting and 36% from beyond the arc.
I mean, he's like turning into this crazy. He's like a mixture. He's like those are some like Giannis numbers, man.
I know. I feel
31
like,
and 11.
yeah, and I mean, he had some shots I did not approve of in Game 4. I feel like he forced them a little bit, but I think my favorite takeaway from this playoff series after he injured his wrist is that he hasn't missed a free throw. I feel like sometimes him and Jaylen Brown could get so lackadaisical at the free throw line, and I feel like, I mean, he's perfect from post wrist injury. It's been fun. It's been fun to watch him just constantly sink free throws.
Yeah, and Jalen coming into this game, I feel like he was probably around like mid 80s from the line. He was 3 for
Yeah,
5 tonight. One thing I've really liked about Jalen, when I think about him missing free throws in the past, it always felt like he was missing short, right?
yeah,
And it seemed like he's made this adjustment where if he's missing long. Like all of his shots are now hitting like the very back of the rim as they kind of like semi swish in. And I think that's like an important adjustment. I was a former shooting coach back in the day, and I would be interested to hear his adjustment that he made to clearly it's to me, it seems like he's changing where he's aiming as he's
yeah.
shooting his free throws. Like, is he shooting now aiming at the back of the rim versus the front of the rim? And it just seems a lot more confident coming out of his hand. And when he misses, it seems like he's missing long. So I'm glad that he's made that adjustment because I actually feel pretty like up until Tatum just went on this crazy run of 36 out of 36 from the free throw line. I was starting to think like, I feel like I'm just as confident with Jalen at the line as Tatum at the line. And that's kind of like a knock on Tatum for not being as good as he used to be. And,
Yeah.
props to Jalen for improving to the point where they were kind of evening out. But it was great to see both of our stars get into the line first and foremost, and then finishing those opportunities.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, part of getting to the line is being aggressive. And when both those guys are just driving downhill, getting to the basket, even if they're not taking the layup, just passing and kicking the ball out, the Celtics offense is so much better than when they're just trying to ISO on the top and they end up taking like a sidestep three or a pull up three that is contested. The offense flows so much better when when they're driving and kicking and not doing isolation basketball.
Definitely. And, before we move on, because we still don't know who the Celtics opponent in the next round is going to be. I was fully expecting this pod for us to start thinking about Celtics against the Knicks, and then the Detroit Pistons end up, with a huge victory in
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden tonight, 106-103. So we still have to await the winner of that. But before we put a bow on this series, is there any other kind of takeaways either about the Magic or the Celtics that you have here, Alex, from these 5 games?
I think, like Will said in previous podcasts, that it's actually good. The Celtics had to rely on their offense, but not just on the three-pointer solely to win this series. A lot of low-scoring games, a lot of physical games. It kind of reminded me of like an older style of basketball. Like we aren't running up and down the court and shooting a bunch of three-pointers. I think it's good, although we did see some injuries, like KP got his head cut open and Jalen dislocates his finger, Tatum hurts his wrist.
Drew
But
hurts his hamstring.
yeah, well, everyone gets hurt, so that's another note. But I think the physicality is good, especially when you play a team like the Knicks, where we'll get to see Jalen Brunson bobbing his head. Is dreads flying all over the place. I think that'll be good. I think they'll be more tested for the Knicks. At the same time, I don't really think the Knicks are a threat. And in an alternate reality, they're actually down 3-2 going back to Detroit. So
That's a good point. And I was actually kind of thinking about this. As great as the Magic are on defense, uh, I think it was a great preparation in that the Celtics are now not going to see another defense of this level probably
yeah,
until the finals with the Thunder. Like this is the hardest it's going to be for them to actually create offense in these playoffs in the Eastern Conference. I think the Cavs present some issues just with their too big lineup, and then they've actually got some like seals that the Celtic kill whale offense might want to go hunting, but actually kind of hold up a little bit better than you might think. Like I think Darius Garland is not a good defender, but I think he's a little bit underrated his ability just to be, play angles well. I think Sam Merrill is surprisingly like a decent
yeah,
defender. Max Strus is actually a good defender. Dean Wade's a decent defender. Then they've
yeah.
got Okoro and all these other guys that actually can hold up. Ty Jerome's a decent defender. So that matchup should be interesting. But then the other thing, man, the Indiana Pacers, like there's no guarantee we even see the Cavs because the Pacers dispatched of the Milwaukee Bucks in 5 games, just like the Celtics did to the Magic. And I don't know if you caught the end of that one, people that are
I caught
listening
the end
out
of it.
there. Yeah, I know you caught it, Alex. I'm talking directly to our audience, but that shit was crazy. That shit was crazy. The Bucks had that one in regulation, blew the lead in regulation.
Yeah, they
They
did.
had it one in overtime. 118 to 111 with like 45 seconds left or something like that. And they lost that too.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Doc Rivers, I just watched the Celtic City. I got to watch all the highs and lows of him on the Celtics. But I just feel like post Celtics era, he's not been a good coach. Obviously, Gary Trent just dropped that ball at the end of the game. He just dropped it. It went right through his legs. He had such a great game. He really was pretty much flawless offensively. And that's the way the season ends, with Giannis in Tyrese Halliburton's dad's face, and I don't even know if he'll be on the Bucks next year. So just disappointing.
I missed that. Giannis got into it with Halliburton's dad.
Yeah, right after the game, Giannis is kind of standing there on the court, just kind of soaking up that choke they just had, and Halliburton's dad like walks up to him on the court after the game, and then after that, Giannis confronts him on the bench on the sideline. Halliburton condoned his dad's actions after the game, but still, it's just, I don't know. Yeah, the Dame Achilles injury in Game 4. I never really thought the Bucks are going to win that series, but it's just a disappointing way for that season to end. And Giannis's future with the Bucks is now definitely in question.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
And if you look at the box score for this game, because I didn't catch the whole thing, we were just extolling Jason Tatum's Giannis-like stats. Listen to Giannis's stats in this one, everybody. 44 minutes. Now, obviously, they went into overtime, but this guy had 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 13 assists, and his team
yeah,
lost. Like, I mean, there's at the end of the day, there's only so much that one person can do. The NBA is so deep at this point, and when you're flanked by AJ Green, Bobby Portis, Gary Trent Jr., and Kevin Porter Jr., all who played over 44 minutes of action tonight, along with Giannis, like you don't really have much to go off of there. They have to trade Giannis. I don't know. Like they could probably get back a whole lot. We're going to have to see how far the Rockets end up going. I would imagine that's going to be a destination. If the Thunder win the title this year or even make it to the NBA finals, maybe they don't want to make that move, but there's a world out there in which Giannis somehow ends up on OKC, which would be absolutely terrifying. But it stinks to see, someone who's as great as Giannis is. Obviously he won the title back in 21.
yeah.
And since then he's had shit luck, right? He's been injured or Dame's been injured, and he hasn't had a healthy team. And Chris Middleton, too. Chris Middleton was never healthy either.
Well, they traded Chris Middleton for Kuzma, who played 13 minutes today. So, I mean, I don't know. I believe the Bucks GM actually just got extended, so I'm not really sure how that works out. But I don't know. It is unfortunate. Giannis is such a great talent. He really is unstoppable on the basketball court. And Gary Trent Jr. had 8 3-pointers made today. AJ Green had 6. Giannis had 30, 20, and 10. They still lost. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah.
that just brings me to how good the Pacers are too, though,
Yeah.
man. Like, their lineup that they're throwing out there, because the Pacers have kind of been my league pass darling over the last couple of years, and then last year seeing them in the Eastern Conference Finals, I just love the way that they play. I love the way that they compete. So they're throwing out there these days. So Neesmith, Siakam, Turner, Nemhard, and Halliburton is their starting five. Each of those guys played 37 minutes or more in this one, and they're getting those 15 to 17 minutes out of TJ McConnell every night. Obi Toppin's giving them 10 to 15 good minutes. Matherin is kind of an X factor off the bench. And they're even playing Jarris Walker in the playoffs here. So when you look at that team, projecting ahead, we talked a little bit about the Cavs. What do you see from this Pacers team that scares you, or do they scare you?
They definitely scare me. Even though we swept them last year, it was not an easy. None of those games were easy. That first game, we got lucky, barely won on a JB corner three, send it to overtime. I think they're a very scrappy team. And plus, they have the ability to score in bunches very fast. Like, I remember like 2 or 3 years ago, this team would put up like 140 points per game. They just, like, they can score the basketball. And it seems like they figured out how to play defense too. And they're definitely an interesting team. I think they match up pretty well with the Cavs, even though the Cavs have that double big lineup. I think they'll be able to space them out pretty well. And I'm interested to see how that series will go.
Is there a world in which you think the Pistons actually take the Knicks to 7 games here? Knicks are up 3-2 heading back to Detroit.
Yeah, I think they could get to 7. I don't think they're going to win Game 7 in New York, if it gets to Game 7, though. I think they should be up 3-2, and they probably win Game 6, and they go on to the next round, but they didn't call that foul. So,
yeah, that was such a clear foul, man. That was such bullshit.
Yeah.
And in that game tonight, Cade, he ended up with 24, 8, and 8, only 6 for 17 from the field, but he's going up against OG, right? Still got to the line 12 times. That's where he did most of his damage. Tobias Harris is actually kind of playing well.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. He is actually better than Paul George. Like, if you think about it from a Sixers perspective, who's had a better year, Tobias Harris or Paul George? That's not even close.
Not even close. Yeah, Tobias went for 17, 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 4 blocks from Tobias Harris tonight. And that's
Thompson.
the thing with Tobias. He's just like one of those guys that can disappear. But when he plays, man, like when he actually shows up, he can really make a difference. He's a decent defender, and he's got a lot of size there. I heard you mention Thompson's name.
Yeah, Thompson, 22 points, 8 for 10 from the field, 7 rebounds, 2 blocks. Great game from him too.
Yeah, great defense on Brunson, making Brunson work. Brunson, super inefficient game, and he's definitely struggling with that ankle. You can see that he's not 100%, and the Knicks just continued to put so much of the brunt of the offense in his hands. Right, he was 4 for 16 from the field tonight, only 16 shot attempts, 7 for 10 from the line. But when Brunson doesn't have it going, and he did not have that magic in the fourth quarter there. He missed a bunch of shots that he normally makes. The Knicks, they don't really have much. Towns had a couple of huge buckets in the last game that's pretty much saved their season. But I just don't see enough out of that Knicks team. I don't see enough out of this Pistons team. Here's a question for you, though, Alex. Who would you actually rather face in the next round in terms of coming off of this like physical slugfest with the Magic? Would you rather go up against the Pistons or the Knicks?
Knicks, 100%. The Pistons scare me just like the Magic do. I just there's some teams that in this league that the Celtics just don't match up well with, and the Pistons are one of them. I think I guess they match up fine, but I don't know. Playing against them, playing against the Magic, playing against some other teams they're just they're weird for the Celtics. I feel like sometimes they underestimate these teams. They play down to their level, and these games always end up close. I remember when Blake Griffin was on the Pistons. It was a completely different team, but those Celtics games would be close every time and for no reason. So I'd rather play the Knicks. I think we match up great against the Knicks, and I think it would probably be a 5-game series max.
Yeah, I don't think the Knicks have much for us. But I like your point though about the Celtics kind of playing down to the competition, because they did that to some degree against the Magic. But I just think the Magic are really a special defensive team, right? There was a reason they were a top 2 team in defensive rating this year. And when you look at the Knicks, although they were built to defend the Celtics with OG and Mikal Bridges and Josh Hart. When you put out Karl Towns and Jalen Brunson in your starting five, there's just too many holes there that you can exploit. And Bridges just isn't the defender that I think all Knicks fans thought they were getting there. Okay. We're about at time here. Are there any other thoughts you have from around the rest of the playoffs?
I do want to talk about the Lakers really quickly.
Okay. Yeah. Down 3-1 against the
down
T-Wolves right now.
3-1. Yep. Down 3-1 right now. Luka was definitely tripped still, had a chance to win it. I just don't like their offense. That entire second half, no subs. So I think that's the first mistake. Second mistake was it seemed like for the entire fourth quarter, it was just Luka running around at the top of the key until there was like 10 seconds left in the shot clock. And then it'd be like, oh, let's go try to find a basket or something. Not efficient. I think JJ Redick got out-coached in that game. And Anthony Edwards, who I thought got really hurt in that first half, just completely took over that game, ended up with 43 points. The Timberwolves are an interesting team, and I like to see where they go when they eventually beat the Lakers.
Yeah, man. With the Lakers, I haven't caught as much of that series as I intended to. I just had, I was at a wedding in California this weekend and just had a bunch of shit going on. But what I've tuned into, it just seems like Ant might be the best player in that series, man. As crazy as it is to say, he's outplayed Luka, he's outplayed LeBron. And when you look around, those are the only two guys that can match Anthony Edwards talent for talent. And this guy coming into this season, after last season, he has an unbelievable first round against the Suns, just like goes at Kevin Durant. Next round, who'd they take out in the second round?
It was the Nuggets in 7. They were down 19 or something.
Right. They take out the Nuggets. Take out the Nuggets in 7, and then they go up against Luka. And seeing Luka with the Lakers against Luka, last year with the Mavs against the same team, minus Towns, right? He doesn't have quite as many people to target out there. Yeah. The magic of Luka just doesn't quite seem to be there. And I don't know what it is, if it's him not being used to playing with all the other guys on the Lakers right now. But Luka, this is why, I've always said I thought Tatum was a better player than Luka, and some people call me crazy for it. It's just like he doesn't make his teammates better, and he doesn't play any defense. So as great as he is, I don't think he'll ever be on the same level as Tatum.
Yeah, no, definitely no defense. Defense is a big thing that separates him and Luka. Luka still in this series has played basically no defense. Obviously he hit some good shots. He hits that patented Luka step back. But for me, I look at this series and I think about that physical that they made up for Mark Williams, because Connect's sitting on the bench, he's not playing.
Right.
And maybe that was just a move for the future, but I feel like if you have a player that you want to see play in the future, he should probably at least be getting a little bit of rotation time in your current Lakers playoff roster. So I feel like if they had Mark Williams, maybe the series would be a little different, because they're running a lot of small ball. They're having Rui at the 5, and that just doesn't work out against this Timberwolves team that is just huge.
Yeah. That's one of the things it's been interesting kind of just watching a lot more basketball during these playoffs, is just how big the league is right now, and how all these teams have just sized up. And that's why it was so important a couple of years ago for the Celtics to realize how the league was trending and to go out and get Kristaps Porzingis to play a little bit more double big, Horford and Porzingis, Horford and Cornet and Porzingis, Tatum at the 3 instead of Tatum at the 4. Anytime the Celtics can size up like that, I just think it's very forward thinking, very progressive, and just understanding the teams that they might have to play, like the Orlando Magic. Can you imagine if we went this whole series with Al Horford being our only starting center? That's where the Celtics were at a couple of years ago, and they had to make the realization that you can't throw 6'8" Daniel Tice like centers out there in today's NBA. You have to have real size. You have to have 7-footers that can come out and defend, whether in drop or come out and hedge and recover. You have to have versatile bigs. And the roster construction with the Celtics, when you watch around the league and you see all these teams that have bits and pieces of what the Celtics have, but they don't have everything the Celtics have. And the Lakers are just that perfect example of that, right? They have these huge wings They have LeBron, they have Rui, they have Luca, they have Vanderbilt, right?
Yeah.
Vanderbilt. But they don't have a big, right? They don't have the Kristaps Porzingis. They don't even have an Al Horford. So when you compare the Lakers and their top end talent, Luka Doncic, LeBron James, Austin Reeves being that like Derek White level player, but not quite on the same level as Derek White. They just don't have enough two-way players and two-way stars. And that's what makes this Celtics special. Everybody on the court can dribble, pass, or shoot and defend their yard. And when you look at the Lakers, I don't know if anybody meets that qualification that I just said.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's the problem, and that's probably why they're going to lose this series.
Will you relish in the Lakers losing the series in 5 games?
No. If I'm gonna be honest, I kind of want to see LeBron play a little bit more. Run out of time for LeBron. And me personally, I've never seen a league without LeBron. So the more I can watch him play, the better.
That's wild. That is wild.
Know.
Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Agreeing with Envy. Shout out to Alex Gonzalez. Man, we called you out of the bullpen tonight. Will gave us a last minute cancellation. Really appreciate you being here, my man. Alex has been doing all of the video content for the pod over the last like 4 or 5 months. So, you're graduating from where?
Virginia Tech in about 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. So any people out there, Alex, I hope you stay with the pod after you graduate and after the season. But anybody that's looking for a hardworking individual, Alex Gonzalez is your man. We can definitely link you if you reach out to the pod, CelticsNoise@gmail.com. We can link you with Alex if you're someone who's interested in his services at the end of the season. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Green with Envy. This is your boy, Greg Manakis, signing off. Shout out to my guy, Will. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to the Celtics. And shout out to the Orlando Magic shooting coach, who probably doesn't do that anymore. All right, everybody. Peace.
All right, see ya.